Hello and welcome everyone. This is Ryan Phoenix, your humble tour guide, letting you know it's time for another Speedy Tour. And today, we are continuing our journey through the world of Final Fantasy IV. This topic was recommended by our favorite Ninja Party member, B-Dude of B-Dude Games. In this video, we are going to cover a number of useful glitches that you can put to use in this SNES classic. Note that these glitches are being done on the SNES version of Final Fantasy IV, and may not work on later releases, such as the PSP. Let's start off with a way to make some quick cash, a duplication trick. This can be done as soon as you are able to get into battle. Simply go into the item menu, making sure you have 2 consecutive open spaces. First, remove one piece of equipment, either your weapon or your shield, by selecting the second empty space in your inventory, then pressing up and choosing the equipment. You'll notice that this item will automatically be moved into the first empty space in your inventory. Next, you will go to the other piece of equipment, select it, and move it down into the second space, the same one where you tried to put the first item, then flee from that battle. Open up your menu and go to the equipment option. You can see here that the first piece of gear has actually doubled, but that's small potatoes. The real trick is with the second item. Your second empty hand will seem to have 5 of something. Re-equip the item and then remove it into the exact same inventory spot. Going into your inventory, it will seem like the item has vanished, but that empty spot actually holds roughly 65,000 copies of the item in question. If we go into the shop now, we can sell that empty slot for a lot of cash. Make sure to be near a town for this, as from my experience, getting into another fight will make that invisible inventory item actually disappear altogether. But maybe it isn't cash that you're worried about, and just want some extra copies of, say, a legendary sword that you can dart at foes. Well, you are in luck. Follow the same steps as before to duplicate the item, but this time, try re-equipping that empty inventory spot once again. Your weapon will be returned to you, along with a glitched amount of 254 additional copies of the same item. Now you can let your friendly neighborhood ninja go to town with all those sword throwings. Here's another early game glitch that can be both useful and entertaining. With some precise button presses, you are able to go past certain event tiles on the world map. In particular, being able to skip the Village of Mist where you first meet Rydia. To perform this feat, start off directly next to the town. I recommend saving here because this trick can be tricky, to say the least, to pull off, so you may need to have another go at it. Start the trick by moving to the left and opening your menu mid-movement. For visual clarity, I like to be facing downward, so it's pretty clear when your character turns to walk to the left. If you get into the menu in the middle of this step, you're going to want to use a tent. This will make the game think that you're on a different tile than it visually shows you. Now, move one space to the right. You won't enter the village even though you are standing on top of it, but there's one more step to getting past it entirely. You're going to have to do another mid-movement menu, but this time going to the right. If you're too late with your menu, you'll walk into town and have to start over. If you do get this mid-movement menu done, the next step is to save the game and reset. When you open that save file, you will be right on top of the village and able to move freely to the right and completely past it. You could move on to the village town Kaipo, with Kane still in your party for fun, but this will eventually cause the game to crash when you get to Damsign later on. Or you can enter Mist from the right side. This will allow you to freely explore the town, going into the shops for the powerful dancing dagger, and raiding the top left house for the tiara and change rod. Be warned, when you exit the town, even from the right, it will place you on the left side of town. And trying to leave the town for the left will trigger the usual package opening cutscene, allowing the game's story to continue. Let's go ahead and talk about another story skip. It is one that I did mention in my Let's Tour, but didn't put to use. Shortly after your initial trip into the underground, you will face off against the doll menace Calbrina and the ever-present baddie Golbez. After defeating these two, the Dark Crystal of the Dwarves is lost, and all is sad. But you are able to get the crystal back immediately with the use of a warp spell. Using the spell after speaking with King Giot, but before leaving the throne room, will return you to the crystal room, where the crystal is still there for some reason. This won't really affect the story noticeably now, but will allow you to skip an entire dungeon later, the trapdoor-ridden sealed cave. A very easy and very useful skip to quicken the progress in-game. Speaking of progress, how about an easier way to progress in levels? This is a pretty simple trick that allows you to get more experience for monsters that you defeat. This works best with monsters that summon other friends into battle, like the Alert or Conjurer types. First of all, there has to be more than one enemy left in the battle. If you're finishing off the last one, this trick won't work. To get extra experience from a monster, you can use a life potion or spell on an enemy just as it dies. Using the weak spell can allow you to know when a target is near death. Once you have the enemy low on HP and an attack ready to finish it off, get ready with some of those life potions. If you time it right, you can revive the monster immediately after finishing it, possibly even more than once. The monster won't actually come back to life, but you'll still get the experience for the extra kill. You want another way to power up your team? How about some better equipment? Ever notice how your mage users can't hold shields? That's no good. You can fix that with your handy dandy ninja at your side. First, get into a battle with an enemy that you can steal, or rather, sneak, a weapon or shield from. While the sneak is going off, you need to get into the item menu of the character you want to equip the item. If your turn order isn't cooperating, you can kill off the other members of your team. If you are in the item menu when the weapon or shield is stolen, the game will allow you to move that into the character's hands. Note that only Yang and Edge are able to equip 2 weapons, and this duo is also incapable of using shields. On screen, I'll show a brief list of items that you can steal. The most useful, in my opinion, being the silver shield for Rosa and Rydia. You want some more equipment shenanigans? Well, I did show off this trick a decent bit in the playthrough, but it's still worth mentioning here. Using the Avenger Sword for a quick berserk. Going into battle with your best equipment on Cecil or Kane, then switching out to the Avenger can be very beneficial, as the berserk will give you the additional attack power, and you will maintain the stat power of the original weapon. Most importantly, this can bypass armor protection from berserk. For example, with the crystal equipment at the end of the game. Otherwise, you could simply cast berserk with Rosa. Still, very handy for some quick and intense damage. But how about our mages? What are some other ways that they could become even better? How about underflowing their MP to give them unlimited magical resources? To do this, you have to go into the magic menu outside of battle and use up most of your MP. You need to make it so you have at least one spell that costs slightly too much MP to cast, and a second spell that you are able to cast. Put these spells side by side. Note that these both have to be spells you can use outside of battle. Now, select the higher MP option, and then highlight the lower cost spell. Now, this is a fairly precise button press, but with some practice, you can get it down pretty quickly. You'll have to move the cursor to the higher MP spell at the same time as you press the confirm button. If you do it right, the game will let you cast a spell, putting your MP below 0, and allowing you to cast any spell you want. Well, that is inside battle. Outside battle will be a no-go. This will allow your casters with low MP pools, like Tella and Fusoya, to be more useful in battle. Tella can even wield the mighty media with this trick. Have fun with it. If you need to turn off this glitch to use your magic outside of battle, you can do so by using an ether on the party member. The final trick up my sleeve for this video is the wall spell and its versatility. In particular, reflecting magic onto opponents will not trigger counterattacks. This is useful enough as it is, but there are certain enemies in the game that have very particular counters that you might want to avoid. Remember bosses like the Dark Elf and the 4 Elements that will change shape? Reflecting spells at these baddies will prevent their transformations. Also, one to mention is the final boss, Zeromus. You will likely notice that he'll counter spells and summons with nuke and weak spells, but more importantly, the developers gave him a hidden counter. He actually only has 61,000 hit points, but to make the fight longer, his HP will refill to his maximum if his HP hits below 1800 and he's hit with a direct attack. Reflecting an attack won't trigger this, making for a boss with less health, but this can be pretty hard to pull off since you're not triggering counterattacks to weaken those big bangs of his. Plus having the black hole remove wall at inopportune times. Now that is all the glitchy information I have for you today. Do you have any other glitches you think people will find useful? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, if you have other ideas for Speedy Tours, leave those in the comments as well. I appreciate it very much. There are many more to come, but I'm always looking for more input from you guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope that this little video will make your experiences with Final Fantasy IV all the more fun. Until the next time you hop on board the bus, stay gold, my friends.